I've been on Princess's newest class of ship for a week now, and I must admit I have very mixed feelings. On one hand, they've made many overdue improvements to their cabins, with shower doors and couches now standard, and they've introduced some dramatic spaces like a wider and brighter Piazza and the dome pool lounge and performance space. But these changes have come at a heavy cost. The ship's layout is very confusing with more dead ends than ever. The dome is closed half the time to set up for evening shows that are very hard to get into, and fundamental spaces like the main theater and gym have shrunk compared to previous classes, even though this class accommodates 800 plus more guests. Stay tuned for a full rundown of first impressions of Sun Princess. Hey cruisers, Andrew from Ottawa, Canada here. Welcome to the Chill Cruiser, where I review cruise ships from a chill perspective, sharing tips on how to save time, money, and grief on your cruise vacations. It's day 36 of my 77-day European cruise adventure, and I'm on Sun Princess for several cruises over the next several weeks. Check out the description for links to previous videos on my ventures in Norway and the British Isles, and there are several more videos to come as I get through a growing backlog of travel content. Right off, I've got to say this is one of the trickiest ships I've had to review. Princess has introduced hundreds of changes to this new Sphere class of ships. Many of them are improvements, but Princess sacrificed a lot of elements that some, but not all cruisers would consider important to make those improvements, like having an intuitive layout, uncrowded pools, or having an unobstructed view of the ocean. One major so-called improvement is a family activity zone spread across 3 decks called Park 19, with a variety of different attractions like a roll glider, slide, and a ropes course. This venue sits completed on Deck 19, but has been closed since the ship's inaugural sailing a few months ago because it apparently couldn't get safety certified. Seeing this park with the large feet-only sanctuary pool area combined with the packed pools that needed to be shrunk to make space for Park 19 reminded me of Norwegian Cruise Line ships, which dedicate the majority of real estate on the top decks of its newer ships to venues that charge an extra fee, like sun lounges or go-kart tracks, leaving the public pools to be very small and crowded. One Norwegian ship in particular comes to mind, the Joy, which I reviewed last year, because it's had an identity crisis since it was built in 2018 for cruises out of China. It's the cruise line's poorest reviewed ship and has undergone millions of dollars in fixes and updates over 2 separate dry docks to repurpose the ship for North America, and I think Sun Princess is headed down that road as well. When I first boarded last week and I wandered around, I was in love with all the new spaces and the friendliness of the crew. But my impression changed dramatically once I had to figure out how to get to specific venues on the ship. My first mission was to get to the salon for a haircut. I made the appointment on the spa's lower location on Deck 7, where the thermal suite is located, but they said I needed to go to Deck 18 because the salon is located 11 decks above the main spa. When it was time for my appointment, I made my way from my cabin, which is at the back of the ship, so I used the aft elevator to go up to the 18th floor. But that's the dead-end sanctuary section, so you can't go to any other parts of the ship from there. So I had to go down to Deck 17, walk down a hall of cabins. When I thought a door at the end of the hall was an exit to the Lido deck area with stairs back up to 18, well, for some unclear reason, that exit is closed and you have to turn back and find another way. This is a situation that repeated itself many times the first couple of days. I've also been hit by doors opening into cramped bathrooms or hallways twice. This ship has one of the least guest-friendly layouts I've experienced in all of my 40-plus cruises so far. Speaking of the sanctuary, this premium sun deck area has changed dramatically from previous ships. It's gone from an area where you book a specific lounger or cabana for a half or full day to a much larger space with a pool where you buy a day pass with all loungers available on a first-come, first-served basis, other than cabanas that cost a whopping $400 to $500 for the day. The large sun canopy is gone, so there's very little shade. The attendants serve from a small menu, but the beloved afternoon tea service has been canceled. But it's not all bad. One of the biggest improvements I've noticed over previous Princess ships is the cabins. They finally replaced the dated shower curtains with glass doors. The bathrooms are very modern and slightly more spacious with nicer bath products by Beekman. The living space is larger with a full couch, and the balconies are larger as well. They've significantly expanded the amount of outdoor lounge and eating space with a nice variety of different chairs and loungers. But since they've moved the buffet to the lower decks, these outdoor spaces are below cabins. My cabin, for instance, has a massive 30-foot deep terrace canopy in front, so the ocean view is partially obstructed. And instead of hearing the waves, you hear music from the buffet. Unfortunately, the Promenade does not wrap around the entire ship, which I think is a big miss. The Piazza is dramatically different with a modern design and much more natural light thanks to the Sphere design. They host a larger variety of events here like Zumba classes, silent discos, and trivia, which did seem to work well. But to make this design work, they had to install large pillars surrounding the space, so it could be difficult to get a good view of whatever's happening on the main floor. You can tell Princess invested a lot of resources in designing and building the dome, which is a beautiful multi-purpose space that can serve as a solarium lounge with an indoor pool during the day and a performance venue and nightclub by night. But the performances seem to be the priority because the entire dome was often closed to allow for setup and testing. It was closed for 2 entire days this past week, and on days it was open, they usually closed the doors and kicked everyone out by 2 or 3 p.m. Since there isn't a lot of real estate dedicated to chairs, the capacity for guests to watch the evening shows is only a few hundred, so it was very difficult to get a seat when they did host a show. We were turned away multiple nights and were told we had to line up no earlier than 30 minutes before a show to get a seat. When we did that and did get a seat, I thought the show was fairly underwhelming with only a few minutes of true acrobatics. Because of all the stage lighting and sound equipment inside, though, the dome does work well as a nightclub after the shows are over. One amenity I was really looking forward to seeing on Sun was an indoor pool, which Princess has only installed on a handful of its 16 ships. I was really disappointed to see that the indoor portion of the pool that straddles the aft section of the dome is very small and wouldn't be able to accommodate many guests during bad weather. I was reminded of how popular indoor pools are to cruisers on Holland America's Rotterdam earlier this year when the main pool with a retractable roof was the most popular venue on the ship. In terms of food, in addition to moving the buffet to the middle of the ship, Princess has also combined all of the main dining rooms over 3 floors at the back of decks 6, 7, and 8. They all serve the same menu except on certain nights when the deck 8 dining room is focused on an American menu. The deck 6 dining room is still a dead end in the aft stairwell and elevators, so if you want to go anywhere else on that deck, you need to go up 1 level, across, and then back down. Princess also significantly expanded the number of specialty and experiential dining options on the ship, some with hefty price tags. There are separate dining rooms for reserve collection cabins and signature cabins that seem to serve a very similar menu to what's offered in the main dining room. Crown Grill and Sabatini's are here, but not 360, which they introduced on Discovery and Enchanted Princess to rave reviews. Instead, they've introduced Spellbound, which is an experience that costs $150 per person and includes theatrical cocktails and musicians performing throughout your meal, which got mixed reviews from people I met on the ship. They also have Love by Brito, which I, to be honest, really don't know much about, just that it's located in a very awkward position at the very top of the ship. They also have a teppanyaki and hot pot restaurant, as well as the loyal guest favorite casual pizza restaurant, Alfredo's. The casino on Sun Princess is the biggest in the fleet, but unfortunately the most disappointing. Princess didn't opt to confine smoking into a dedicated sealed room like other cruise lines have done. Instead, it's a wide open space with smoking allowed at 70% of the slot machines. There's a large bank of slot machines from the Buffalo franchise that didn't seem to be paying much, and there are a lot of popular machines missing like Dragon Link, Fire Link, and Locket Link. The casino manager did say that more machines are coming once the ship makes it to the US, but he wouldn't tell me which ones. One positive change where there doesn't seem to have been a trade-off is their new elevator system that points you to an elevator based on what floor you're going to. This has reduced elevator wait time and crowding significantly compared to my recent cruises on other Princess ships where there were often long waits for a crowded elevator. Another positive aspect about Sun is the crew. You can tell Princess recruited its A-list of people from across the fleet. The service from the crew throughout the ship has been excellent. So with all that in mind, it does take more time than usual to get oriented to the ship, and you do need some patience as you try to experience the different entertainment options in the theater and the dome. I'll stop it there, but I've barely scratched the surface of things you need to know about this ship. Hit subscribe for many more videos to come, including an orientation on how to navigate Sun Princess compared to other Princess ships, as well as the biggest hits and misses. In the meantime, don't miss my video on the top 10 things you need to know when planning a Princess cruise here. Thank you for watching, and happy cruising.